To meet with you. As most of the people in this room know, I am easily accessible via a myriad of communications. So please just keep that in mind. This is an opportunity to look at whole school questions you may have and things of that nature, and not individual kinds of things. I jotted down a list of things I thought you may be interested in. This is by no means inclusive of what we can talk about today. If you have questions you want to add on or ask additional information about, please don't hesitate to do so. Really the goal of this is just to have open communication and just to really just give you an opportunity to know what's going on. Opening of school in general, we thought went rather smooth, sans buses. Buses are always a challenge for us at the start of the school year. We still are challenged by that. The big issue we're facing right now in regard to school buses is that we're no longer the first stop. So in the past, if you were at our school previously, the buses were on our lot about 30 minutes prior to dismissal. And due to that, we were able to get our kids in and out of the building on buses rather quickly. It still took a little bit of time in regard to cars because we have about 250 to 300 car riders, but our buses were able to leave the lot rather quickly. Due to our situation now, we are second in line, meaning that Huff High School runs a route, then us. And due to that, we're about 15 minutes behind releasing our kids from the lot. They're leaving Huff late, they're getting to us late, which in turn is causing us, was it about 3:05 we're getting everybody out of here?
Yeah. When I've talked to several of the drivers, they're supposed to actually be leaving Huff at about 2:25 and technically be here about 2:45, which is still only about a 20-minute window. But they're actually leaving at about 2:35, so there's no way they're going to run their routes and make it here in 10 minutes. Part of the problem is when I go out there at 2:40, out of the 14 buses we have, usually at 2:40 there'll be about 6 or 7 buses. So I don't want to start letting kids come out for the fear of all these buses coming in and crossing paths. So what I've been trying to do each day is wait till I get about 10 or 11 buses in the lot. Then I give them a call that they can go ahead and start releasing the kids, and then I can have the remaining 3 buses kind of come around the back, and they actually never cross paths with the kids at all. At this point, they are still making changes. I have another change that's going to go into effect tomorrow. We're pulling some kids off of one bus and going on to another bus, and I'll be sending notes home about that. I imagine the YMCA bus is probably going to eventually change. Right now, they've been sending a separate bus, which has been sometimes it's there when I walk out, sometimes it's there 5 minutes after we release the other buses. But eventually, they're going to eventually create a bus for the YMCA, so we're going to probably be adding another one. But right now, we've been getting off the lot. The best we've gotten off the lot is about 3 o'clock. And I imagine once everything finally calms down and settles down, that's probably going to be pretty close. Last year it would take us, by the time we had dismissal to by the time we pulled off the lot, it took us about 10 minutes. So if we can do it in 15 minutes this year, based on the fact that I have to wait for all these buses to come from the high school, I still feel we're doing pretty good. But I would imagine in the next week or two, probably within the next week or two, there'll still be another couple of changes. So I would probably say hopefully in about 2 weeks, we should be consistent to where we're going to be going, I hope.
Yes. How are they, are they organized by slot?
They're organized by
slot. Go out?
They're organized by slot. And one of the things we always tell the kids, and we always tell the teachers too, is even though it's important to learn your bus number, learn your slot number. Because if we have a substitute bus or a substitute driver, we always make sure we get them in the correct slot. So even if bus number 5 is supposed to be in slot 6 and bus 18 shows up for that bus, we still get them in the right slot, so that way the teachers know just to go slot by slot. So that
get them before they actually leave the building.
You know, I don't know if each teacher does that or not. They have a map that each of them have with the slots on it, and they will write the students' names in them, and they walk them to each bus. It would make sense to me if I was the one in the classroom to do that, but I'm not sure if that would be.
I just thought it might speed up.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, once the buses are here, they're usually gone rather quickly.
Yeah, it moves quick.
The problem that we've really run into is I start dismissal at, and this is going to sound odd, but really I start dismissal at 2:38. I go on and do an afternoon announcement. At 2:38, we've typically had about 6 buses in the lot. We have over 13. So what we've decided is, rather than have the kids out like Mr. Otalski, by the way, this is the assistant principal if you're new to the school. What we've decided is, 1, to stop confusion, 2, keep the kids out of the heat. We just decided to keep them in the classroom until more of the buses arrive. So I have started car dismissal, after school program, all that stuff starts. But the buses we release probably is about 4 or 5 minutes later.
Yeah, it does help a little bit because it does get some of the traffic off the road, because I know early on, before we actually kind of started doing that, I could look out there and I could see 2 or 3 buses on the road, but they were behind cars. So even by just giving a 4 or 5 minute window where the cars can start moving through, you know, we may be able to knock out 40, 50 cars maybe off the road. That kind of helps speed things up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the biggest factor this year is just the fact that moving to the middle slot, we're dependent upon whatever happens at the high school. It just trickles down.
The high school to see if they can.
Yeah, I mean, I have actually had, I've actually had somebody from transportation out on the lot almost every day. No, somebody that's come to our lot almost every day to check and see how things are going and everything. And you know, they keep relaying the same message that part of it is the problem in there, which kind of baffles me because, you know, I told you, you got 16 to 17-year-olds. When I was 17, you said go home. I was on the bus ready to go. So why they can't get on the bus quick, I don't know. I was out the door. We're going home. So why it's taking a 16-year-old so long to get on a bus that far, I don't know.
But it is going to be a continued problem. I've been at a late school as well as a principal when I was at Elizabeth Traditional, and literally every single day we had 1 or 2 late buses, and we didn't have kids going home until after 6 o'clock at night. So it is going to be a challenge, but we seem to have it honed within this window. But it's about 15 minutes behind that time that they told you on those initial cards. Another thing I want parents to know about is if something does happen where a child doesn't get picked up in the neighborhood, call us and let us know, because the transportation department unfortunately does not do a stellar job of communicating with us. Typically, we're the one telling them that something's happened. So, for instance, earlier this week in Caldwell Station, we had several stops that didn't get picked up because of a bus change that they supposedly communicated to the drivers, but it never got followed through on. We weren't even aware of until a parent called us and said there was 13 kids on X corner, and it's about 15 minutes late. What's going on? So we start making phone calls. So if there are situations in neighborhoods, let us know, because you are oftentimes the first notification to us that there's an issue. The transportation department does not typically call us and let us know those things. So that's kind of the bus piece. Other than that, opening school, the biggest thing you will notice is obviously we're larger again this year, and I'll talk about numbers in a few minutes, but that is going to create some situations in regard to how we run after school kind of parent activities. You saw the general open house that we had. We tried to stagger it, and you saw still the traffic situation we ran into. I potentially am going to have to look at other options for that initial open house next year. Some schools do it staggered throughout the day. Some schools do it on multiple days. I'm not sure yet. We are trying a multiple day situation this year for the curriculum nights. We had our first one last Thursday for our first, third, and fifth graders, and then we have one this Thursday at 5:30 for K, 2, and 4. Our hope is, again, to try to allow for enough parking to accommodate parents, because what's typically happening in these situations is that every family is bringing 2 cars because they're coming from work or whatever situation they're in, and then our lot is filling up very quickly. We also don't have the runoff now because we have a playground. We were using that in the past. We did use the football field during the open house, but even that was not enough. So, you know, that will be something you will see. It will be a little tweak due to our size situation, and we'll see how those kind of things go. New staff-wise, due to our size and due to just really some things I shared at the end of last year, we had multiple people decide to be stay-at-home moms. We had multiple people that left the state. We actually have around 17 to 20 new teachers in our school for a variety of reasons. We also had 2 retirements. So you see a lot of change in the school in regard to faces. One of the things the PTO did that I thought was great was they have a map out in the main lobby of the school that not only has where the classrooms are, but it has a picture of each person, so you can kind of put a name with a face. So take advantage of that and use it. It's a great idea that they came up with. But we do have a lot of new people. Now, the positive of that is, for the first time in about 4 years, we were allowed to get internal transfers. So what that means is teachers that may have been teaching in another school that wanted to come to our school were able to apply for that. that allowed me an opportunity to really get my hands on some top-notch people in regard to our instructional piece. So I was really excited. It made my life a lot easier. I interviewed for 2 straight weeks this summer, probably about 60 to 65 candidates to get the best people in our building. So we're pretty happy with what we ended up with, even though we have all this change. We have people that are technologically savvy, we have strong educators. Most of our teachers have some experience at a variety of levels. We did move some people internally, so there were some changes in regard to our staff and how we kind of move things around. So if you're curious of who X teacher is, we do have a map up in the main part of our building for you to look at. Another thing we're doing just to communicate with parents is I'm randomly picking 5 families every week and calling them and just kind of doing a touch base with parents to kind of see how they're doing. Are you being communicated with on a weekly basis? Because that's our expectation. Eventually asking questions about the progress of your child. It was a little early for that when we started it, so I haven't counted that question, but that will be a question. Are you being notified about specific things going on with your child? Are you happy overall with the way your experience has gone at the school? Are there any suggestions of things we can do? And we're going to do that every week, and I just randomly select 5 blue cards and we call them. We've done two weeks now, and I keep that data, and we'll use that data as we make plans as well. In regard to our numbers as a whole, just so everybody's aware, like I said, we'll have 1,052 students right now. The paper said we were the 3rd largest elementary school. We're actually the 4th. I talked to the principal at Blythe, and she has 1077, plus she has pre-K. They don't count pre-K typically in our overall school numbers, but we're actually the 4th, which is still rather large. Our numbers right now look really good in regard to class size, but that could always change. So, and the reason I say that is you could always lose a teacher. We did not hit our projection. We missed it by 17 kids. They could tell us in the next week or so that I have to lose a teacher. So be aware of that. Right now, 1st grade has our lowest numbers in the school. In 1st grade, we only have 17.6 kids in a class, which is phenomenal. But the odds are, unless I can really beg and plead, that could change. But I don't know for sure yet. So I say that only as a kind of semi-warning, not as a definite possibility, but that's our lowest group right now. And the reason that is they set projections for us every summer. And they give us what they guess based on whatever formula they have of how many kids we're going to have in X grade level. For some reason, we're about 30 students short in 1st grade. We're over in 4th grade, we went over in kindergarten, and we're close in every other grade level. But for some reason in 1st grade, we just lost a group of kids for whatever reason. And that's put us down in 1st grade in regard to our overall numbers. Our highest numbers right now is 26, and that's 5th grade. The max you can have in 5th grade is 29, so that's still not bad. The majority of our grade levels are right in that 20 to 22 range, which is very reasonable. People that are new to North Carolina, K3 numbers, the max you can have in K3 is 24, just to kind of give you an idea about that. Questions about our numbers? Yes?
Up to what grade do you have TAs?
Teachers' assistants work in all grade levels.
Okay, so each teacher has 1 TA.
No, we get X amount of assistants for our school.
Okay.
What we do is in K1, we have 1 assistant for every 2 teachers. In 2nd grade, we have an assistant that works with 3 classes. And then when you get into 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we have 1 assistant that works with the entire grade level. So for instance, in 4th grade, Miss Inman is working with 4th grade. She's the only assistant that works in 4th grade. Basically what she does is work with those classes that have the highest needs in 4th grade and the teachers feel that they need it. So, but she spends all of her time there. In the past, we've had them jumping all over the place. This year, they're 1 person per grade level to get them what they need. But we give obviously more support to K1, and then 2 starts to reduce, and then 3, 4, and 5 it reduces even further. So that's kind of how we design it. That's a good question. Any other questions about size or how we've organized assistants and things of that nature? Okay. Other things. We obviously, like I said, are growing. One problem, how many 4th grade parents do we have here? All right, we have a few 4th grade parents. You know, maybe more than other people, that we have an issue where we're short 4 mobile classrooms in 4th grade. Due to that, I have people not where they're supposed to be. So your child may have said you had media class in the classroom today, or the media teacher was coming to them. That's because right now I have 2 English classes going on in our media center. I have an art class that floats now because we're using the art room for a 4th grade class, and I have another class down on C Hall at the end of the hall. By the end of September, we should have these other mobiles put in, and then we will have all of 4th grade outside. So they will all be together. There won't be all this movement coming in and out of the building. Everybody will be right by each other. That will have all 5th grade and all of 4th grade together outside. So just to kind of give you an idea of where we're at. Next question will probably be, where the heck are they going to go? Well, if you've been out back in the back of our building, they will kind of curl in front of, there's a big water retaining area with a fence around it. The 4 mobiles are going to curl in front of that, heading toward this playground right here. And there's going to be a restroom attached, because once you get over 10 mobile units, you have to add another restroom. So there'll be 2 restrooms out there, and there'll be 13 mobiles. So just to kind of give you an idea of how we're handling that. As of right now, the kids and teachers are handling it rather well, the best we can. We're not in the worst situation in the district right now, but we're handling it at the best we can right now in that regard. So that's kind of the only size space issue that we're running into right now. Air conditioning has been a huge problem so far this year. Our engine or motor blew out on our air conditioner about a month before school started. They've also had problems communicating with the computers because it's all computerized. So we found a lot of hot spots and cold spots, and they're still working on it every day. As teachers let me know, or as parents let me know, I communicate with them and they try to send people out here to work on it. So it's kind of been hit and miss. Ever since the school's been built, C Hall has always been the warmest. They have not been able to figure it. It's kind of like certain rooms in your house. They have not been able to figure out the end of C Hall. It's always been the warmest part of the building. So we continue to work on those issues in that regard.